The sun was beating down hard on the long stretch of highway, turning the asphalt into something that looked almost like melting glass. Cars flew by, air-conditioned and comfortable, their drivers barely sparing a glance at the wealthy older man standing beside his broken-down luxury car. His white button-up shirt clung to his back with sweat, and his usually polished shoes were coated in dust. He wiped his forehead for what felt like the 100th time. His name was William Harrington, a man whose bank account could buy almost anything in the world, except maybe forgiveness or love, things he had quietly lost over the years. He was the kind of man whose life had been built on deals, contracts, and numbers rather than moments, memories, or family. And now, stranded in the heat, ignored by the world he thought he controlled, his irritation grew with each passing minute. One car after another zoomed past. No one slowed, no one cared. Just when William was about to give up and call an overpriced roadside service, he heard footsteps approaching. He turned and saw a young black boy, maybe 10 or 11, walking toward him with a small backpack slung over his shoulder. The boy paused, looked at the flat tire, then at William, and smiled gently. "You need help, sir." The question stunned William, not because he needed help, but because someone had finally offered. The boy didn't wait for an answer. He placed his backpack down, pulled out a small toolkit, and knelt beside the tire like he had done this 100 times before. "Your jack slipped," the boy said, tightening a bolt with small but skilled hands. "The ground here is too soft. You gotta lift it from the firmer side." William just stared. The boy wasn't intimidated by the expensive car or the expensive suit. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just helping. "What's your name?" William asked finally. "Marcus. How old are you?" 12. His hands kept working effortlessly. "My mom says if you help people when you can, help comes back to you." Within minutes, the tire was fixed. Marcus stood up, dusted off his knees, and picked up his backpack. "How much do you want?" William asked, reaching into his pocket. Marcus shook his head. "Nothing. That tire was worth more than your toolbox," William insisted. "I didn't help for money, sir," Marcus replied simply. "Sometimes people just need someone to stop." He turned and began walking away, the sun behind him casting a long shadow that somehow made him look wiser than his age. William watched him go, completely rattled. He had grown up believing kindness always had a price, and generosity always came with hidden terms. Yet here was a boy with a rusty toolkit and dust-covered shoes teaching him a lesson he didn't know he needed. That night, William couldn't sleep. The boy's words echoed in his mind. He kept picturing those steady hands, that humble smile, and that refusal to take even a dollar. It bothered him, not in a bad way, but in the way truth bothers a person when they've lived too long without seeing it. The next morning, William made a decision he never expected to make. He traced the road, asking shopkeepers if they had seen the boy. After a few hours, someone pointed toward a small neighborhood on the outskirts of town. The houses were old but tidy. Kids played barefoot on the street. Laundry swayed on clotheslines. It was the kind of neighborhood William hadn't stepped into in decades, humble, loud, filled with life. He finally found the house described to him. Fading blue paint, chipped porch steps, a cracked flower pot near the window. He took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened a moment later. And the face that appeared froze him completely. It wasn't Marcus. It was a woman, tall, calm, and exhausted in the way only mothers working 2 jobs look exhausted. But it wasn't her face that shocked him. It was her eyes. They looked exactly like someone William once knew. Someone he had failed. Someone he had lost. For years, William had carried a private guilt, a child he had walked away from long ago, a decision made out of selfishness and cowardice. He tried to bury the memory under money, work, and distance. But seeing those eyes again, familiar, warm, wounded, made his heart pound. The woman looked confused. "Sir, can I help you?" William swallowed hard. I met a boy yesterday. Marcus." Her expression softened instantly. "Oh, that would be my son. May I speak to him?" She nodded and called inside, "Marcus." A moment later, the boy stepped out, surprised to see the man from the highway. "You followed me?" Marcus asked, eyebrows raised. William smiled awkwardly. "I wanted to thank you properly." He held out a small envelope. Marcus stepped back. "I told you I don't want money." "It's not money," William replied. "Please, it's something else." The boy hesitated, then took the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten. Marcus opened it slowly. The first line read, "Thank you for showing me what real kindness looks like." The letter went on, expressing gratitude, but then it shifted into something deeper. William felt his voice tremble as he explained the part he had never told anyone. "When I saw your mother," he said softly, looking at both of them, "I realized something. Years ago, I knew someone who looked just like her. Someone I cared about but didn't have the courage to stand beside." He looked at the woman. "I don't know if you're related to her, but seeing you felt like being given a second chance, not to fix the past, but maybe to do something good in the present." Marcus and his mother exchanged a confused look. "I don't want anything from you," William continued. "I just want to help in a way that's meaningful." The woman folded her arms, cautious. "Help how?" William looked around the modest home. The peeling walls, the uneven porch, the tired furniture visible through the cracked doorway. "Let me renovate your house," he said finally. "No debt, no conditions, just gratitude." The mother stiffened. "We're not charity, and I'm not offering charity," William replied. "I'm offering a thank you. I'm offering a way to honor someone I lost. And I'm offering something I've never offered anyone before, sincerity." The silence was thick. Marcus stepped forward. "Mom, I think he means it." The mother stared at William long enough to read something in his expression, regret, humility, something honest he hadn't shown anyone in years. Finally, she nodded. Days turned into weeks. Workers arrived. Walls were repaired. The roof was replaced. The front steps were rebuilt. The house slowly transformed into something bright, safe, and warm. But something else transformed too. William found himself visiting often, at first to supervise the renovations, but then simply to sit on the porch, talking to Marcus, listening to his jokes, his dreams, his stories about school and his unwavering belief that people could be good if someone just gave them a reason. For a man who had spent most of his life alone, those afternoons felt like sunlight breaking through clouds he didn't know he had. One evening, as the renovation neared completion, Marcus sat beside him and asked, "Why were you really alone on that road?" William hesitated, then spoke the truth. "I pushed everyone away," he admitted. "I chose work over family, money over people, success over connection, and eventually, I had no one left to care whether I got home safe or not." Marcus looked at him with eyes wiser than 12 years should allow. "Well, you got us now." William felt his chest tighten. "Do I?" Marcus smiled. "If you want." It was the simplest sentence he had ever heard, yet it carried enough warmth to melt years of emotional frost. The day the renovation was finished, Marcus's mother invited William inside. The house glowed. The walls were painted. The floors were polished. The home felt alive. She placed a mug of tea in front of him. "My son tells me you don't have much family left," she said gently. "That's true," he admitted. She sat down across from him. "Well, families can grow." For the first time in decades, William felt something inside him shift, not guilt, not regret, but hope. A strange, unfamiliar feeling. Belonging. From that day on, William visited not as a donor or a stranger, but as something else, a father figure, a mentor, a friend, maybe even the grandfather Marcus never had. A simple act on a hot roadside had rewritten the story of 3 lives. A boy who believed in kindness had taught a millionaire the value of family. A mother who had learned to be strong alone found unexpected support. And a man who once stood alone on a highway discovered something priceless. A family found not by blood, but by choice.